go.
Okay, now we're recording.
Okay, here we go. I'd like to call the meeting to order and approve do I have approval of the minutes of November 13th, 2020 meeting?
So moved.
And that was Andrea.
I'd like to make one change.
Oh, okay.
I will second, then you can make the change.
Okay,
Okay.
so Evan second.
All right, what's the change?
The change is that it talked about the people who would, it named the people who would walk different properties while Peter's in Florida, and it didn't mention me for Champlain North.
Oh, my bad. Thank you, Peter.
I would like to make a change also.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Dan Beret's name is misspelled multiple times in there. That needs to be corrected.
Okay, that was my fault. I gave that name to Sarah, so I apologize. So how do you spell his name?
What time is your meeting, Gary? What time is your meeting?
Now till 10:30.
How do you spell Dan's last name?
I'm not going to give it to you off the top of my head. I
Okay.
can email it to Sarah.
Okay, email it to Sarah. We will correct that it will correct the spelling of his name.
Hey, Greg, it looks like you're on here on your computer and on your phone now, so we're getting an echo with your voice.
Yeah, the issue is I don't have any audio on my computer.
Okay. If you start to notice that there's feedback coming from you, you'll have to.
Okay. I just,
Oh, wait,
you
popped up.
just
Okay.
strictly on phone now.
Hi.
So.
Okay.
Okay, can we have
joining the meeting?
Oh, okay, so we have we have Andrea and Evan second. We made the change for Peter to be walking Champlain North, and we're correcting Dan's spelling of his name. Any other corrections?
So do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
We have to, I think we vote now. All in favor?
Yeah, we've moved and seconded.
Yes.
And we made the changes, so all in favor of, with the changes, approving the minutes?
Aye.
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 Okay, anyone against? Okay, that passed.
Approved.
Approved.
Okay, the next item is Land Stewart Report. Peter Norris.
Okay, good morning, everyone. November was kind of a quiet month compared to over the summer, but there were a few trees that I had to cut up. As Evan mentioned, I think going through a Bartholomew recently, that there are a lot of trees where the tops have been broken off and that are still hanging there. So over the next few months, we'll probably see those branches and tops of trees falling down. So just obviously we're all aware of that because sort of DEEP had put out in terms of a sign for people just to be aware of the forests are getting old, whether there's disease or pests out there that are destroying the trees. But other than that, things look good. I did some work on the caves on the Red Trail of Ames. I was contacted by someone from the Land Trust who likes to go up in the caves and roost around. So there were a couple of dead trees in there, which I did was able to cut up.
Wasn't that the Lime Land Trust? That was.
Yes.
Yes, not the old Lime Land Trust.
So there are a couple of trees up there, which I never knew because in some respects, I never really go up there. But I have noticed this past month, I think because of the weather also, that a lot of people are out there on the trails, especially Ames and Champlain South. So it's been a lot of fun meeting a lot of new people out there.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Great.
did you leave the chairs there? Are they just the plastic, like-
They're, the old metal chairs that you found in school for assemblies that were, fold up chairs. I just left them in there.
Okay. How about the bicycle ramp?
Well, I haven't, I'll be going back to Champlain South today at 1 o'clock. So I'll look at it, but, the only reason I noticed it is because someone took a rake and made a path. But I mean, anybody could make a ski jump out there with all the ledge. So, if there's anything I can take apart, I will, but it looked like, they just found a nice ledge and were able to rocket off it with their bikes, but it's pretty steep. It's about a 30-foot drop. And I personally wouldn't want to do it even with a helmet on. So
I'd rather have my skis on the powder. Well, I think we need to watch for things like that and remove it. And if we see more evidence of that, maybe, and I'm just throwing this out there, no basis. I've heard that the person that has a bicycle shop up in Laysville has a group of people that these, kind of coordinates biking episode or incidents, and maybe talk to him about it, about, being good stewards or something to think about, or if he can pass the word around that we are not against bikes on the trail, but they gotta, respect the trails and not create things like this because they become hazards for others. Noticed in some of your pictures you've been sending that we have a lot more flooding on Ames. And I know Evan was out the other day walking over by Whippoorwill in 95 and said that the beaver dammed both sides of the culvert. So obviously we're going to have a lot more water backing up. So I just wonder if we need to post more. I think it should be on our webpage. And Greg, if you could just kind of maybe take care of that. So when you come down to the Blue Trail, you can't make it anywhere.
Correct. Yeah, I did put a notice on the kiosk at Ames.
Right.
Mentioning that, but you can, bypass it by going up the red to the yellow to the Wood Road Trail. So it does complete a loop. Actually, there was you were going to have made more signs about trail closed.
Yes.
You do that yet or no?
No, I haven't, but I will.
Yeah, we could post at least one more on the Blue Trail.
I was actually, rather than order them from Voss, which takes a while and you need a minimum, I was looking like at Home Depot or something for a sign that we could adapt just to, pick up one or two.
Okay.
But
you want me to do that?
well, maybe another thought is if do you have one trail closed sign left over?
No, not left over.
Okay, is it something that we could maybe take to like Staples or something and get a couple made? And then
yeah.
I think that would be better because Boston have to do these big.
Hello?
Okay, I'll take one down and bring it over then.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah, and just put it on your thing and I'll reimburse you for it.
Okay.
I think that we need to put it on our web post, and when you post it to the web, I think it needs to tell people the alternate trail to go. I was in the town clerk's office the other day and somebody called asking for trail maps, and I happened to be there, and and I was telling Assistant Town Clerk Courtney that you can go onto our website and you can do this and you can do the QR code. And they said, well, I was on Lay and I didn't see any trail maps. And I say, well, that's a trail of the Old Lyme Land Trust. And they said, well, they don't have any maps. I said, well, if you go to our website, you can hit the link and go and download. They said, well, I don't have a computer. And I said, our open space is posted. You can get maps. You can go to the kiosk and pick up maps. I said, but the Old Lyme Land Trust has their own preserves and it's their decision. So you'd have to contact them directly. But it was nice that I could tell them that we had QR code, we had trail maps, we had links. It was very rewarding. One last, before I make you leave, I don't know if you can see, this is the sign that we're talking about putting, but we've talked about putting it on our kiosks. And if you look at our kiosks, there is no room for this sign. So I'd be glad to get some made up, put our name on it or something versus, you know, U.S. Department of, or whoever they put it, State of Connecticut deep. But I'm not sure where we put them. So I'm looking for suggestions on where we put them.
Is there a post at the bottom that you can put one of the links to put them on?
I'm sorry, you're a little blurry.
Can you post it on the leg of the kiosk or the frame?
Well, I really don't want to do that because it's like a picture frame. And then once you start hanging them on, then it's doesn't have a solid background for one. And two, it looks very haphazard. I really spent a lot of time, Peter Norris and I this summer, uniformly dressing the look. One thought is, you know, the long rectangular thing that says no ATVs allowed. I could make it in that format and attach it at the bottom of the kiosk. That's one thought. We could post it on a tree by, you know, where that little wood fence is that has no ATV activity. Put it there. I don't know. I'm hesitant to put it, you know, hanging out on the side of the kiosk.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if you have space on the other, what you suggested sounds good.
Yeah, I think so. And I could, you know, I could either make it rectangular so it could be attached. I think people go, you look at the kiosk, you get too much clutter hanging on the side, then you automatically, your brain shuts off. But if you come to the wood gate and it says no ATV, and then you have this big yellow rectangular sign that says, caution, watch out for trees, they're falling. And we can, you know, put that on. So I'll look into the cost of that and get back to you on it. Okay. Any
I
other?
guess the point of these signs is to avoid any litigation.
Well, you're never going to avoid litigation. I work for 40 attorneys. Let me tell you, they litigate everything. But at least you put a notice that to look at, and you know. But I grew up. My father was director of research for the DuPont company, and they used to have safety awards. And so you'd open a door, and they'd say, "Open door cautiously." I mean, you can over prepare for all these things. Watch steps and you're going downstairs, turn here, turn there. After a while you say, you know, I'm afraid to walk in. So I don't want to overthink it either. But
If I may, I think I think overloading the public with warnings is going to diminish their desire to go walk. It's clutter and
yeah,
it's sort of visual litter, and I think that you know, you can, as you say, you can warn people up and down to tomorrow, and either they're not going to pay any attention or they're just going to ignore everything. So because there are too many signs.
So would you vote not to put that sign up, Evan?
No, I think at least for the time being, and it probably will continue because the forests are, as Peter said, are growing older, and they're getting hit with disease and drought, which is making the trees brittle.
And we've had more wind.
And we are having more wind events.
And critters chewing the trees.
Well, yeah, the disease and insects, you know, gypsy moth and emerald ash borer and So that's going to continue, but I think warning them about the widow makers is a good idea.
I think so. I just want to show you, this is this is a notice that Peter Norris put in those little plastic pouches over on Ames that the trail is flooded. So, and that's what I kind of want, Greg Futoma, if you don't have this is what would be nice on our website when it links you to Ames that says, hey, you're going to have to reroute. And I think down the road, we may need to look at that whole area.
I would like to suggest, how about regarding that sign, the first sign that you show, to put in a statement in the website at least.
Oh yeah, so that's what we want to do, is put a something on the web page so that people,
General, yeah.
right, when they load the map or they see it, it says, oh, well, I'll reroute, rather than getting there and saying, where do I go now?
Right.
I think a little both on the trail, as I said, and on the web page.
Right.
Any other comments on Peter Norris's meeting? So Peter, this is the last time we'll see you for several months, correct? You're leaving end of December? I can't hear you.
I think he left.
Yes, I'll keep in touch for sure. Yeah, we're thinking of going right after Christmas, so I'll be down there as of now till early May.
Okay, well, safe travels. Have a great time down there, and we'll look forward to seeing you in May, and we'll send you pictures of all the cleanup we're doing.
Okay.
Stay safe, Peter.
Okay,
Thanks, I
Peter.
will. You too, you guys too.
Yep. Okay, the next item is existing business and open space property updates. Amanda.
Okay, well, don't have actually too many. Peter covers them a lot in his presentation. I just want to mention that Evan and I walked the Red Trail and part of Lay last Thursday, Nature Conservancy. Dave Gumbart and Sophie, is that it?
Yes. Sophie.
And we found a widowmaker. We found some trees tangled, and I sent it. Evan took a picture for me. Thank you, Evan. And I sent it to Wayne, who'll be taking care of that. I received a couple of emails from Rich Cody, our attorney, and he's filing the stipulated motion. He's also representing the Nature Conservancy in Connecticut, because they didn't want to hire an attorney. It was just less of a issue. So he emailed Hans, and everybody's in agreement. So hopefully that motion will get signed by the judge. Everything will be approved, and all we have now is to put it to a town meeting at some point. I think I'm going to let Andrea talk about what she did on Champlain North. I don't have any updates on Champlain South or Bartholomew. I want to talk a little bit about the flooding on Ames, because I am concerned about that, and just something to monitor. And we're discussing some of the Ames issues in executive session later this morning, so I won't say anything more, but I think we need to watch it. And Evan and Andrea, we had talked to that young woman, her dad, who were talking about doing a pathway and a bridge. At this point, I don't think it's even worth it. We may end up rerouting that trail at a later date. It's just like on the Blue Trail on the opposite side, have an observation area, but maybe we just, if that's going to be the continuation of the flooding of the beavers, we're going to have to access some of the other trails and just maybe discontinue that trail. Something to think about for over the next couple of months, and if people that are walking Ames maybe take pictures or note it so we can kind of monitor that situation.
Amanda, can I ask whether there's been any further discussion either with the town or with the land trust or anybody about putting in a beaver deceiver at that culvert under Whippoorwill?
Well, Evan, remember when we worked with Bonnie on that, and then all of a sudden the beavers were gone and the dam was broken. So this was like a year and a half, probably maybe it was last year, 2 years ago, somewhere around there. It's not something but that we've discussed, but maybe you and I should discuss it with Tim and say, we met with your predecessor, we met with Ed in Public Works, and with Andrea when she did the work party on Ames. We brought the woman Diane, I think it's Diane, in with the beaver potential program. Maybe reach out to her and see if we can get Tim and Ed in a conference call and say, hey, you've got a problem and we're recommending a solution.
Yeah.
And maybe connect. That would be a good way. So but I think we have a couple of things before Tim right now, but we'll bring it up because there are houses on that road that will be affected sooner than later.
The only reason I mention it is that it would be better for that. I mean, I think the hiring a trapper to go and every year and a half trap the beavers out is going to be more expensive. Plus, you don't want dead beavers all over the place. People shooting them, and it was interesting this morning on Emily's Facebook page. There was a video of a beaver pond in Lyme on one of the Lyme Land Trust preserves of camera taking a video first of a great blue heron and then a pair of otters in the beaver pond, and it just highlighted the fact that the beaver ponds are fabulous wildlife areas, and that's what we want.
Yeah, it would be nice if we could somehow get a copy of that, because when we're working on that grant and that wildlife observation area, even though it's not ours, it would be nice to incorporate it into that. So that would be great to see or be able to share.
Well, maybe I can figure out how to find it. Either Sue Cope has it, or I don't know who's monitoring their critter cam, their trail cams. But it was a really nice view of two otters on a floating log, and the great blue heron.
Oh, great! You might also ask them what type of camera they're using, because we haven't ordered ours. We submitted something, but it might be nice to kind of keep looking around.
Right.
Any other observations or things to? I have a couple more things. When we did our walk with Nature Conservancy, they showed me their new trail markers that they're putting. Dave is on some of their places. Dave's involved with the Killingworth Land Trust. I think he lives in that town, and so these are what they're using versus our triangles or our diamonds. I said I would probably miss that on a trail, but but I just thought I'd share with you what other people are using. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, since Peter Norris will be away for 4 months, and he reports to all of us, I was hoping that someone would volunteer to receive emails from our commission members. There's something that we need to be aware of, a tree down or something like that, so that rather than it going to everybody throughout and then having a discussion, if one person would, we could email them and they could field the emails or calls and and let us be aware. And you're always welcome to call me because I have all the tree guys and things like that. But
Well, I can still do that if you like. I mean, I'm not going to be totally in a cave down there. So,
no, on a beach.
well, you know, with our, I don't know. I mean, I can forward stuff. Certainly, my email address is on the webpage, and as people do send me stuff, I can forward them to you guys, and you can follow up on it. But I don't mind doing that. I mean, I'm still going to be in connection with you.
Okay, well, that'd be fun.
I volunteer also, Peter, to if you forward this message. And we need a visual inspection of what trees are they talking about. I could, follow up on that.
Sure.
Okay. Gary, Gregory, you've been very good about walking the trails and sending us pictures and everything. And thank you for that. I just have to tell you, I've never been good with a compass. So I know you give me those compass readings, you send them to us. But if you could just be a little more saying, on the red trail partway there, a little more point of reference for me, because I can't work the compass. Sorry. So that would be helpful to me because you're always, sending pictures and monitoring. That would be helpful. So. Sure.
Amanda, the app that I use, I also put a description there. So if you look at that picture, I think it's on the top. There is a description,
okay.
as well as the coordinates for anybody that can use them.
Okay. Okay. Great. Well, that's good to know because I go, oh my gosh, how do I do this? So no, that's great. Thank you. And let's all be vigilant and we've got winter coming with storms and winds and everything else. So. It's going to be a little crazy out there. Okay. I finished my report, Bill. So
okay. Well, moving on. Peter Cable, herbicides.
Yeah. I've not got a written report this month, just a verbal because it'll be fairly short. In continuing sort of the research on the background work on deciding what we wanted to do about herbicides, there are two things I wanted to mention. First, I contacted Margot Burns at Rivercog, thinking she might have some insight, and she said she doesn't have a really scientific background to address some of the issues we're talking about. But she believes that we don't want to, we probably ought to steer away from, yes, we'll use herbicides, no, we don't use herbicides, but look at each situation separately and assess it separately. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the direction we were going in any event. The other thing in the background is that Claudio sent me a paper that he had, a position paper that he had prepared for the Old Lyme Land Trust that lays out very carefully what the preserves are, what the invasive species are, a complete background summary of the two most prominent herbicides, that's glyphosate and triclopyr. I don't know if I've pronounced those correctly, but and about their use and how they control invasives, and then laying out a strategy for how to use it on the land trust lands, with some additional background material. It's a very, very good outline of where I think we're trying to go. As far as that goes, the second part of my report is that I did, in fact, prepare an outline based on the Nature Conservancy herbicide use position from 2016 that Evan had forwarded to us. And the Nature Conservancy also has a guide that describes not only, that goes into more detail on how it's used in detail. And so I prepared an outline based on that. And what I have to do now is, of course, incorporate Claudio's work into all that before I distribute an outline to you. But I think we're forging ahead. The one thing I will mention, as far as policy goes, there has been a more recent examination of using a meta-analysis of the use of glyphosate that raised the issue of its being connected with non-Hodgkin lymphoma. And as Claudio pointed out to me, that's really for people who, in large scale farm use and very, very intensive of use of it, that connection is made. It's not clear that on a very limited scale that has much relevance. The same sort of issues that I raised last month. But these papers do get public notice, and so we have to be concerned about the public perception of them. So there are those issues that have to be addressed. But I just mentioned that, and that's where we are sort of in the continuing research and preparing an outline for an overall policy and use document.
Peter, it's Bill. The people that live on the east side of Eklund Pond, if you mention herbicides, they start to freak out because there are some young children there, and all they say is, just keep cutting the Eklund Pond area. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that.
Yeah, and I think that's an extremely good point, and I think, involving neighbors clearly has to be part of any procedure, any process we go through.
Claudio,
did you have that's a good point.
Yes, no, I just wanted to offer, Peter, if you would like to send me a copy of the 2016 Nature Conservancy position paper, that I don't have it. I can read it as well. I think that you mentioned a 2016 Nature Conservancy report or paper.
Do you want me to? I'll send it to you.
Yeah, just because I haven't seen it, and maybe I can send it to you any comments that it might come up.
Sounds good. I'll send you both the two Nature Conservancy documents.
Oh.
The one that was forwarded by Evan, and the other one that's more on a guide as to how to use it.
Right. Yeah, that would be very interesting. Yeah.
Good.
When Evan and I were walking last week with Dave and Sophie, it's always nice because you're walking for a couple of hours, so you have an opportunity to ask lots of questions. And we did talk herbicides and their policy, and we were talking about how we're reviewing our policy. And I think we all agreed, and correct me if I'm wrong, Evan, that it's not so much the herbicide, you may agree to use it, it's the application of it. Like if you do like broad spraying versus painting, cutting and then painting individual plants with the herbicide. And he says that's what a lot of people misinterpret how it's applied. So it's
that's right, Amanda, and that's basically what the Conservancy's been doing. They used glyphosate on Tree of Heaven that was used to be growing on Griswold Point. Up in this, when Griswold Point was much larger and had sand dunes and trees growing on it, and they were cutting those ailanthus trees and then painting the stumps with glyphosate, and that seemed to do the trick. There's also a different, if you're trying to kill trees, invasive trees, there's a method where you take a hatchet and go and make kind of frills in the bark right around the tree and drop herbicide in those frills, and then it's taken up by the tubes that feed water and nutrients to the tree, and it goes down in the roots and kills the tree. So there are ways of doing it without doing what's called stem foliar applications, which are broadcast spraying on the leaves and twigs and so forth, and that's much. And if there's any wind at all, that's going. When you do that, it's just going to go all over the place.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting too when we were talking with them, because they're working with Lord's Cove on that project, and so we were comparing notes on that.
Yes.
And so it's nice to have dialogue on this. And just before I forget, a different subject, Dave Gumbart said he would love to come down and do a nature walk with us. And during the week was maybe better. And Andrea, I was thinking, because I talked to Heather about this, about getting the high school kids and maybe doing something like that. It's a treat. He's wonderful. Maybe if we could do it on McCulloch, because he and I both love McCulloch. But I just thought it's something that we could maybe schedule to work with the environmental club. A fun day versus, a work day.
And you're suggesting during the week?
Well, I thought because they're in school and they could be there because don't the kids get out of school like 2:30 or something?
Yes.
Yeah, so we could meet somewhere at 3, and then he could do an hour walk in this late spring, maybe May or June, when things are starting to emerge. You need to have fun. I thought June would be tough with the kids because usually they are out and getting ready for every other activity that's planned, but maybe sometime in May would be a good time.
That's great.
Yeah, so he's a wonderful. If you haven't met him, he and the whole group are great to walk with. But he's just very laid back, and he walks through and he says, "Oh, this is this and this is that," and you go, "Wow."
What is his name?
Dave Gumbart. Gum. It's in Mary. Bart. Isn't it T, Evan?
Yes.
Yeah, Gumbart. Yeah, he's head of the Nature Conservancy, or he's the go-to guy for conservation easement monitoring at Nature Conservancy in New Haven.
He's the land steward.
Yeah, thank you. He's a land steward. So, and he's the one. Dave and Sarah Pellegrino were with us for the entire McCulloch acquisition. So they've been very thorough.
Bill, this is Gary. Back to east side of Neckland and the herbicides. Is that the same people that cut the 100 feet of trees between our pond there?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Any other comments for Peter and Claudia? Thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
Okay, I guess we can move on to Andrea Fenton on volunteers.
Sure. I'm going to read my report, which I sent out that last month on the 21st, the Environmental Club Community Service Group, both headed by biology professor, teacher Heather Freed, organized a robust group of 25 students joined by 8 adults. Some of them are the open space members, others are parents, and they removed invasive, the winged anonymous, and bayberry, and Evan could weigh in on the other ones. from around the base of the Barbizon Oak and along its sides. In addition, the Yellow Trail and Barn Foundation heading towards the Old Line Inn was cleared. Heather offered to steward that Yellow Trail as a project within the high school because it was in close proximity to the high school and could be managed by some kids during the week as well. And she was delighted to have met Evan, who I think they spoke about him participating in tree identification along the campus for some environmental test that is required or requested of certain kids for a degree. There was some discussion going back to bird houses as another upcoming project. And I don't know really who's carrying the ball on that, but I know that Goss, the shop teacher, was also going to be contacted or involved or has been. And I guess there's some question of what birdhouses or material would be acceptable. And again, I'm not sure where that direction is to come from. But the point also being that if there's any project or program, they're willing and able, and they have usually a project every month that they like to address. So if we have something in mind for January or February, or any time, we could present it to them and they could schedule it in, along with anyone else that we want to do in a shorter term or more immediate nature.
They maybe could help Peter in the trails, and they would familiarize themselves, because I know Peter's from north, but the more eyes, the better on it, because you can walk it one day and the tree can fall the next. And then they could do monitoring to Peter Norris, and that might have them see how we're 24/7 trying to stay on top of all of this. And also Jim Mildren says he's got lots of wood, so just tell him what you guys need and he'll put it together for him.
Well, I don't know if there's a certain kind of wood that's necessary in building a birdhouse. I don't know if there's specific specs. So
Andrea, Andrea, I would check with Connecticut Audubon.
Okay.
Good point.
I think they not only have a materials list, but probably some designs for birdhouses, depending on what species you're after, bluebirds or wrens or woodpeckers or wood ducks or whatever whole nesting birds you're after.
And do we have any preference of bird species?
Well, I was just thinking, since we're doing that wildlife observation area with wood ducks, maybe that might be something to put up in that area. But other than that,
off of Ames?
Pardon?
The one off of Ames, you mean?
Yes, well, we're working on that. But my thought was, Joe Atwater used to come to our meetings from Ottawa. So he might be a good person to start with, because then maybe he could get a program. Maybe he would want to do a walk, or we could, incorporate it into the nature walk too, and they could see their birdhouses and things when we do it with Dave Gumbar. Just a thought, but I'd start there. Audubon's a great suggestion. I wouldn't know what type of wood. I know that Jim has a plethora of wood there. I mean, it's everything. So, see what they need, and if you need, send me a list, I can contact Jim Mildren. Any comments on Andrea's report?
Okay, I guess we'll move on to Evan for Wetlands Commission. Evan?
Yeah, okay. Yep. So far, the wetlands, it's gotten to be pretty big time for wetlands. There's a fair amount, it appears to me that there's a fair amount of work going on around town that affect wetlands that are not permitted. These are violations, and so we're going around. And Gary, jump in if you want. But we seem to be going out and checking on lots of violations. People thinking, well, nobody's paying during COVID. Nobody's paying attention in town hall to anything I'm doing on my property, and so I can do whatever the hell I want. So, but there seems to be also an uptick in activity. We've got a new application from the Black Hall Club to change one of their, do some work in one of the ponds to create a new golf tee on one of the holes at Black Hall. But generally, the projects are small. We don't have any subdivisions that we need to be concerned about right now. So that's pretty much what the Wetlands Commission is doing.
I have a question. It may be a sidebar to our meeting, but I believe that the high school has approached the wetlands in terms of the proposed turf field in the back of the high school, going up close to the beaver pond in the back.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little feedback. Can you all hear me?
I don't know.
I hear you. I do hear that background.
I think it looks like someone's trying to call in. But that's what that was. So I think they hung up. I don't know who it was. So is it better now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Evan, that might be more of a sidebar that I'm happy to have a discussion with you, but I don't know if you want to address that now or not.
Well, there was an application last year from the school district to, but I have I thought that application was withdrawn. That they're either it was too expensive or no.
No.
They need to come back to you guys before they get a cease and desist. Don't they?
I think it's still on the agenda, and it's with the proposed start date. I'm not sure exactly when, but I know that there's been some public comment in questioning the environmental effects, and I believe that when it had gone, my understanding is that when it went through wetlands, that it was deemed legitimate or okay because of the distance and where the runoff would be. So I was just interested in learning about the wetlands response to the application, either in kind of helping form my opinion. I mean,
yeah, I would go and I think you can get, and I'm not sure whether you can get them online, but the minutes of that meeting when that project was approved, and that would fill you in on some of the discussion about the water issues coming off the field and how they were going to be handled. There were some ponds that were going to be, or basins that were going to be created to catch the runoff and filter the water through the soil and so forth. So I think the minutes would be enlightening.
okay, good, thanks.
Evan, wouldn't they have to file a site?
Oh yeah, there was a whole discussion and application, and there was some, obviously questions about putting acres of plastic down, and what effect that would have long term and so forth. But you know, pretty much every university in the country has started going. I don't know any, for instance, any field hockey team that is still playing on grass these days.
And then arguably the fee and the expense and the resources to water the field are also pretty devastating and debilitating and not as long-term use. So, and it's not as conservation minded, one may also argue. So
Yeah.
I wish they'd thought about that before they paid for all the wells to be dug and then find out. And then now they're going to Plan B. But Andrea, if you don't find it in the minutes, you can call Kim Groves, and I'm sure she has a file. You'll have to make an appointment because the town hall is by appointment only, but she would have all the documentation, the site plan and everything if you wanted to review it.
all right, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments on Andrea's?
Or Evans.
I'm sorry, Evans. Yeah.
I don't know if you, Gary, if you have anything to add, jump in.
No,
Gary's next.
you covered it. So
Okay.
Gary, you're next. Conservation Commission report.
all right. Somebody left us a present on Champaign North. At the entrance, a truckload of leaves.
Oh, we saw that at the meeting, and I asked the high school kids. I think that's from. I think that must be from the Wickford lawn cleanup. And I'll.
Yeah, I just know that.
Kitchings. Yeah, that was we noticed that a couple of weeks ago. I'll talk to Chris Kitchings and see if I can find out who the head of that condo association is and kind of shake my finger at him and say, "Hey, you can't do this."
Well,
I
think that they could be educated as to what to do with those leaves, composting them for their garden beds, and creating leaf mold, which is a great compost and a natural fertilizer, instead of dumping them in the wetlands.
And also, I want to point out that the property across the street, the other side of Wickford, is town-owned open space also. So I don't want them dumping them on that side.
Right.
Even, so, but I'll get a hold of Chris Kitchings because she owns one of the condos there. Okay.
The next thing is a rough cost for a 4-foot wide crushed gravel compacted trail from that parking lot to the Barbizon would be around 10 grand. That's if you hire everything out. It's an easy job. You might be able to get a lot of volunteers to put in some of the labor as well as a grant. So that's where we are on that item.
What would you, so do you have that tells what type of material, the depth of it, the permeability of it, something like that, that gives us, besides the 10 grand,
I do. I do. Not the permeability. It's crushed gravel, so it's permeable.
But don't you have to make a base first? You have to.
Yeah.
I know the process. Do they scrape off the topsoil, compact it real?
I'll tell you the process.
Okay.
You go in there and you take about 4 inches out from one end to the other end of that trail. You put in fabric paper, and then you put in 4 inches of crushed gravel, and you get a rotary compactor to compact it.
Are you going to send us a copy of this so we all can read it?
I could, sure.
Okay, that'd be great. So how permeable is that?
I don't know. I could find out for you, but it's permeable. It's not like asphalt. Concrete you can get permeable concrete too if you want.
Yeah, but there's a degree of it. Everything's in degree.
But permeable is not a requirement for the North Champaign.
Yeah, but we need it on our trails. We don't want non-permeable surface.
No, it's gravel. Gravel is permeable.
Right, right. But I'm saying it may not be a requirement of whatever you're doing, but we don't want it on our trail to a non-permeable surface. So,
I agree.
Gravel, so,
But gravel is permeable.
right. I'm aware of that, but it's just, you have to also say, right now, if it's a grass trail, it's 80% permeable. I'm just using this figure.
Yeah, exactly.
To go down, so I'd like to see what the degrees of,
Permeability.
yes. Okay, so I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, okay. So the big news is the people that moved into Diana's house, very high profile couple with establishments in Aspen, DC, New York City. They confiscated the Tamaheg landing. They put giant boulders along the right side of the entrance going in there, so you can't get in there with a car, get your kayak out of there. And somebody also removed the plaque that Diana put up on that column there. There was a meeting Tuesday night with the Harbor Commission. Probably 20 some people showed up, and as well as the owner, George Plampton, and Tim and Steve Ross were going to go talk to the owner this week. I think they did yesterday, try to come up with some solution. The owner was asked if he know what happened to the plaque, and he said no, he doesn't have any idea. And somebody else at the meeting said the day that private property sign went up, the plaque disappeared. So there's an inference there. So anyway, if you guys are interested, I'll put you on the emails to keep you track of what's going on there. There will be a special meeting held whenever they decide to do it, I guess. And I would assume it could get pretty feisty because there was a few people there Tuesday night that were, as well as me, that were not too happy with that. I mean, I just cannot understand how anybody's got the nerve to move into town and take your public landing from you. That's an evil person, a nasty person. There's nothing you can do about that.
Okay.
So if you guys, it's okay, I'll put you on distribution for the emails about this.
I'm good with that. I'd be interested in the update. I find it a little surprising and shocking.
Well,
There
it's not
were
a
some.
secret. I'm sorry, go ahead.
There were some extenuating circumstances. However, that property was on the market. It was closed in August or September. I'm not sure exactly when the title transferred. But in the meantime, the house had been empty. The property was not monitored on a daily basis, and there were the public going down to the landing decided that they could have access to any part of that property, and they were parking on the lawn of the house, not on the right of way. They were walking when these folks moved in. Was exactly when the swallow murmuration started, and so people were coming down there in droves and parking on their lawn and walking on their lawn and peering in the windows, and so I think they were the owners were kind of freaked out because
Evan, I got a question for you. When the people were parking on their lawn and looking in their windows, did the owners call the police?
No, they felt that they didn't want to call the police because they felt that they were new people in town and they didn't want to cause a big ruckus by having the police come and creating a big ruckus. So they did what they thought would discourage people from going down there and parking. They are not in trying to keep people from delivering their kayaks to the landing and then parking on Tanamahague Road. That would be their preference. And I went down there to check to see what was going on. And I parked my car on Tanamahague and walked down to the landing. And I met Mrs. Frampton, and I actually met both of them, and they said that they were perfectly happy to have people using the landing, but they wanted to stop this free-for-all of people turning in their driveway, driving through their property, parking on their lawn, walking on their lawn as if it was public property. It's not. It's private property. And
Evan, they put a dozen boulders on town property to stop every citizen here from going down there and using town property.
Well,
you're drinking the Kool-Aid.
It's not exactly town property, Gary. That there's a right of way over private property because they own both sides of the road. They own the dam and the lawn part down to the dam, and the town of Old Lyme has a right of way over private property, which does not. It's not a parking lot. It's a way of accessing the water, and all they're asking is that the public park on the public road, not on their driveway.
Well, Evan, you're drinking the Kool-Aid and you don't have the whole story, I don't think.
Well,
can I interrupt for a second? First of all, this is a very touchy issue for a lot of people involved, but it's a town issue, but it's not an open space issue. We do not monitor. And I know I've had some conversations with Tim, because as you all know, I do legal research in Title for the town. It's been brought up. I think that they're trying to work it out. It's no different than Watch Rock that was overrun with people, and the town and the trust had to close it on the weekends. There is limited parking down there for cars using it for kayak access. And people don't understand, if there's only room for 4 cars to park, and if they're the 5th or the 6th car, they still want to park there. So it's a situation that needs to be finessed. It can be worked out, but we just have to give it time. But I don't think we need to try this issue in the public courts. I think before we get into a big legal battle, I think that there needs to be a cooling off period, and people need to, the authorities need to work on that. They realize that is a public landing. It was the same issue with Diana 20 years ago. Remember, Evan, when it was brought to our commission and she wanted to swap it out for another piece? So it's an ongoing issue. This is nothing new. And I just don't want to try this thing in the newspapers, and I'm glad that open space, thank you for making us aware of this, Gary, but it's not an issue that open space needs to get involved in. So
that's not an open space parcel. It's under the jurisdiction of the harbor.
And I'm not sure.
It's under the jurisdiction of the harbor master up to the high a water level, and it's under jurisdiction of the selectmen.
Yeah.
The rest of it. So.
But it's not under conservation.
No, it's not.
Either.
And I brought it up because it's part of what the Conservation Commission wrote a letter to Steve Ross, because he wrote a letter that basically, if you read it, said abandon it. Can't use it, abandon it. So there will be a special meeting coming up, and I will let you know. You guys can follow it if you want.
Okay. if you want, it'd be nice just as a public interest. I mean, I would like to see the letter that Anthony Daniels wrote and the response from Steve. I haven't seen those. I don't know if any other member is interested, but as a taxpayer in town, I'd like to see those letters. If you have a copy, be glad if you'd send them.
I could send you all the correspondence on it if I get a
I'd be
chance.
interested in following it, but I just, as I said, I just don't want to get a number of commissions involved. There are enough people involved.
Yeah,
in this.
no, it's not a commission issue on
Okay.
open space. It's a conservation commission issue.
Well, I'm not sure why it's conservation, but
Somebody's stealing the landing from the town.
that's not it's the harbor
We
map.
we assumed it was, so we thought it was, so we did something about it, so.
Yeah, well, time will tell, right, people?
And on top of that, there's several people have written letters. People went down there with their kayaks and the lady down there ran them off the property. So
Okay,
when they
well,
tell you, oh, we don't care if you come down, and you believe it, you're drinking the Kool-Aid.
well,
Look up this guy's background.
okay, well, but I would hate if someone was threatening to look at my background. Please, people, don't do that. I think we need to, it will get resolved. The powers that be are working on it, and they know that the town people, like you say, Gary, are not going to give up that landing. So they'll be able to work it without going to court.
And that's the only reason I brought it up, besides it's Conservation Commission. It's an issue.
Okay. Gary, I just want to mention that, again, on that with Evan and Dave and Sophie is involved with the land trust for doing with disabilities. And she was very interested in what we were talking about with the Florence Griswold and all of that. She's been doing Braille trails. And so she has a lot of thoughts. So in January, she's going to email me and I'll get you involved. She has a lot of thoughts. And I thought it'd be nice to get the Nature Conservancy involved in the Open Space Commission when they basically deal with land trust. So I thought that was a nice sign. So when I have some correspondence with her, I'll pass it on to you.
All right, thank you. And I'm available to work on that project.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm just not sure. Any other thoughts on the on this trail that Gary is discussing, about the permeability, about the $10,000, about any aspects of that?
I would just mention that I think the Roger Torrey Peterson group and the Florence Griswold Museum are going to be collaborating. The Audubon is going to put in a trail on their property, on their new property when they close, the Bee and Thistle Inn, and connect it to the trail at the Florence Griswold Museum. And I had mentioned both to board members at the Florence Griswold Museum and the RTP folks that I thought having a trail connecting our trail to the Barbizon Oak would be a good idea. And so if there's some way of coordinating the trail installation of a trail, that it should be coordinated between the three organizations.
I think that's great, Evan. If you could follow up on that. I know Greg Futoma has been working with someone over at Flow Grizz to document the tree, the Barbizon Oak, through paintings that they have, and more literature like that. So that would be nice if we could kind of work these things together. If you want to follow up on that thought, Evan, that would be awesome.
Can I just make a quick comment, Amanda? It's
Sorry,
Greg.
go ahead, Greg.
I attended a meeting, kind of an intro meeting with Alicia Millardo 2 weeks ago, and their time frame is to move. They need some town approvals, and obviously the deal has to close, but they're expecting to move into that building in next June and to make it open to the public next August. That's the time frame they're shooting for.
June 21?
Yes.
Oh, good. And how about your follow-up with the paintings?
I've been talking to Amy Kurtz-Lansing, who's the chief curator at Flo Grizz. We've identified about 6 different paintings of what certainly looks like the Barbizon oak, but they're not identified as such, and she's doing a little research on that. And I'm also doing some research. There's some paintings by Child Hassam and other artists of what looks like other open space scenes. One of them looks like it could be right out of Champaign South with some ledges, and we're trying to determine, if possible, where those might have been painted in plein air as well. And as we do that, I think we can come up with some nice content for the website.
Will you also check in, or going to ask her about on the barn?
I have not asked her that. I can ask her that.
Yeah, just because Peter Cable's mentioned it had some use and this and that, and it's just be nice to kind of tie it down to is more information that we can get. Maybe here's a thought: if RPP plans to open in maybe June or something, maybe we could, because June is National Trails, and it'd be nice to get a heads up on that artist trail, maybe kind of head for that same time period. Because National Trails would be the perfect time to open up an artist trail. Even if we didn't have a path, we could have the signs, we could have the information, and the kids doing the clearing. And we, with the kitchens before on opening up, that yellow path that Evan and Ken are going to be working on. It might be a nice date to aim for. Just a thought.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Okay.
Okay, shall we move on to the next item is Compliant Trails Committee Report?
I think we've really talked about that one.
I think we merged that in with the one before with Gary's report.
Okay, then now we'll go on to Old Lyme Land Trust comments.
And I don't see Mark here, so I will.
Why don't we table that till the next meeting?
Okay.
And one thing I noticed, I don't see that name on the distribution to the commission, that email address. So I don't know if he knows about what we're doing.
Peter, you sent it to Mark.
I did.
Okay, is it on the regular distribution then?
It's on the distribution, yeah.
Okay, all right. I didn't see it then.
And I apologize to Claudia. I keep sending email. Claudia, I'll get it right one of these days. But I do, if I miss him and it comes out mail or default, I go to the other one and I forward it to.
Yes. And Peter has been very helpful and forwarding to me the messages that we are missing. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on to new business.
Bill?
Yeah.
Just a quick note that all the meetings are on the calendar that Michelle Norn maintains on the homepage, and also for open space, the agendas are posted prior to the meeting. So there's 2 different places on the website people can find out when we're meeting and what we're meeting about.
Okay. All right, moving on to new business.
I have
Okay, go ahead, Andrea.
I guess the one might be an opportunity to discuss the grant for the community forest and conservation, the forest and conservation program grant for land, and that's due January 11th.
The land acquisition.
Yeah.
Do you have the application on that?
I believe I do, and I could resend it. So yes.
Okay, can you resend it? And can we table any of that until executive session, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Okay, thank you, because I think it'd be more appropriate to discuss that grant there. Any other? I have a couple of items. Greg Futoma sent out the POCD, the draft, and it mentions open space. He's made some comments in there, and we had sent it out to you all to ask for any comments. And email maybe Greg at CC me, because the public hearing on this is Thursday, January 14th. It may be a call in, but I think that open space should make a comment on this and look at our open space plan in 2020 that we did, and just refine this so it reflects everything that we would like in that. If someone has any comments on it now.
I would make one quick comment, Amanda.
Okay.
I noticed on there, which was kind of new to me, it was interesting, but you said it's been there in the past, is that one of the suggestions is if the town has surplus property, the property be disposed or sold and the proceeds put into the open space fund, which I thought was an interesting addition to the plan.
My only thought on that, I think it's a great idea, is I would like to do the list so we could see what properties are in case they might be of interest. Offer them. I know in the past, when the state of Connecticut used to want to get rid of surplus properties, they would get an appraisal and then they would offer the piece to the abutting property owners before they sold it to the public. But which is interesting, but it'd be nice to get the funds. But
yeah, it's vague. Obviously, there's no detail on how that process would work or if there's any type of inventory or surplus property. But I just thought it was an interesting note to include in there.
I don't want to get in a turf war of the board. Comments or attend the public hearing and speak up for open space. I definitely would say we should get more money. And what I noticed was, and I have to admit I haven't put a great deal of time into reading, is I would like to kind of push land acquisition and talk about like, space for wildlife, no trails or anything. Something to think about. For new business, I just want to mention that application before the Board of Selectmen, I think for the next meeting, he would be appointed as an alternate. And on our open space list, we have a couple of members up for reappointment. One is Bill Dunbar, our co-chair, who will be co-chairing his last meeting in January, but who will be moving out of town. So we have proposed, since his term expires in January 21, that Stephen come on as a full member. And Bruce has his term expiring, and there's a one-year term coming up for an alternate, and he will be renewed as for the 1-year term. And we do have attending our meeting today, Lori Warren, who Andrea had suggested she attend, might be interested in becoming a member of Open Space. So I want to give Lori an opportunity to introduce herself and give us a little background if possible.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. I'm sorry, we're not getting your voice.
Can't hear you, Lori.
Me?
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Lori, can you hear us? Oh, hi. You're breaking up, though.
Oh,
You can try the phone number because that it works is working very well.
I don't know if we have. Andrea, you want to give us some background on Lori?
Sure, may shortchange her. Lori, are you on?
yeah, I'm maybe just audio will work.
That's good.
Is that better?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'll try with just audio. So, my daughter is a junior at the high school, Melanie, and I have a son who's a freshman at Purdue University. We've lived in town since 1999. And since COVID hit, our family spent a lot of time walking hiking trails in town and really enjoyed it. And I was talking with Andrea recently at the Barbizon cleanup, and I met a couple other people from the from your group as well. And I was just sitting in today to see what it was all about. And I'm interested, I think maybe just I'll try to attend some more of your meetings and get an idea of what you do and where I might be able to help. My background is I've worked for 21 years in science as a bench scientist for Monsanto and Pfizer. Most recently, I did 17 years at Pfizer. And currently, I work as a lab manager for the Maritime Studies program at Mystic Seaport that is work affiliated with Williams College. And I'd be really interested, I'm really interested in what you do, and I hope that I can contribute at some point.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great. My mother graduated from Purdue, a Boilermaker.
So Laura, you were in
I graduated.
You were in St. Louis for a while?
I wasn't. I actually worked at the Mystic site. There was a site in Mystic that used to be DeKalb Genetics over by the aquarium.
Okay.
We did corn genetics work there. So I actually was on the group that made glyphosate resistant corn. So when you were talking about glyphosate, it kind of brought me back a bit.
GMO.
Okay.
Oh, nice. Well, we hope you attend our meetings, and one way we enjoy meeting new people, Stephen can vouch for this, is if you would like to take a walk with some of the members and meet and you know, practicing mass safe distances or what, but you know, a nice walk in the woods is always a nice to have a conversation.
I would really love that. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, so what's the best, do you want Peter Cable to put you on our meeting notices and things?
Yeah, that would be great. I will attend as I am able to.
Okay, now do you work full-time, part-time, or from home, or what's yours?
Currently, I work full-time for Williams College. My role has shifted a bit, so I work from home with COVID. Probably starting in the fall, I will be going back to full-time, probably in person, so it'll be a little harder for me to participate, but I'm available probably through the summer, but it's hard to know these days.
Definitely is. Well, so same, the club that Heather runs?
Yes.
Okay, good. So that's I'm sure you can give a great deal of assistance to Andrea. We're keeping her busy, so I'm sure you can coordinate with her, but it'd be great. Yeah, it's always nice to welcome people who are interested in open space, new members, and we'll have to think of some way to involve Mystic Seaport in our plans. So.
Daughter is also works with Mr. Goss on the robotics team and has brought home a birdhouse, which we have up in our yard. So
great.
Yeah.
There was, Andrea, didn't you send us something, or it was Audubon, somewhere I read about robotic removal of Phragmites? Did anyone else see that? I was just thinking robotic.
Amanda, Greg, hi. It's hard to. Excuse me for jumping in, but
go right ahead.
I was communicating with, as Peter has, with Clear when I was working on the open space plan, and somehow a graduate research student at UConn got my address, and I subscribed for updates, and she was actually working on some type of robotic device which would tackle invasive species in forests. I haven't heard from her in a couple of months, but if people are interested, I can try to dredge up where that was and send that along. I thought that was really interesting topic to pursue.
Lori, there's your assignment.
Could
Let's get rid of this Phragmite.
I'd like to break in right
Go
now
ahead,
and
Peter.
just ask that someone get me either Andrea, someone get me Lori's email address.
Okay. Well, Andrea, I'm going to have you and Lori communicate and send it to Peter. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Awesome. And yeah, get those robotics guys going. Any other new business to discuss? I would like to move on. We do have an executive that and I know that there's always a time crunch here. Okay.
Okay, I think we can go into executive session.
Amanda,
And
I have a question. If you have any update on my application, I don't know what.
So Claudio, it's the Board of Selectmen has to approve it, and you will come on as an alternate. So if somebody, a regular member is,
I see.
well, I think Bruce will be the first alternate. You will be the second alternate to come in, and so you will be attending. You're welcome to attend our meetings, but we cannot invite you to an executive session.
Right.
That's
right.
the only difference until,
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm signing off.
Okay.
Bye,
So,
everybody.
So I'm signing
Thanks,
off too.
Claudia.
Thank you.
We'll see you at noon, Andrea.
Bye-bye.
See you at noon.
okay. So, let's see, we will be going, I need a, Evan, correct me. I need a motion to go into this. Oh, first of all, this ends the public part. And, we will need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Evan,
Second.
Bill second, and this is at 10:35 a.m. And let me see, Sarah, you have to go off.
Yep, I was just adding that, the motion to enter executive.
Great. Thank you.
Was that Evan who made the motion?
Let's see, Evan made the motion. Stephen, you have to go off.
And second by Bill.
And yes.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you,
Merry
Sarah.
Christmas, Sarah.
Hey, Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.
Oh, yes. Thanks. Merry Christmas, everyone.